Christmas, happy holidays, or whatever it is that you celebrate this time of year. For me, it's the best time of year, which is Christmas time. And in my family, that means that we start slowing down, eating more, and spending time with our family and friends. And so in this episode, I am giving to you some key tips and tricks on how to maintain your waistline, not lose it over the holidays, and still being able to enjoy it. And for me, the number one thing is dessert and my stuffing, and possibly a couple of cocktail drinks as well. So to start off, I'm going to teach you how to make a low-carb, keto-friendly flax bread. There's a little bit of dairy in it as well, so if you're dairy-free, we'll give you an option for that also. But this bread is the closest that I've found to a really good low-carb bread. 2004, I owned a chain of low-carb stores and bakeries, and this recipe has been one that's been tried and true. So we're gonna really power through this episode of showing you how to make the bread to get to the basics of how to put it together and make a great stuffing. So let's start with the bread. You're going to end up with a beautiful bread that is flax-based, which means that the flour is going to be an almond flour, which is your proteins. You have the flax in it to give you your fiber, and it's a really low count flax bread. And by the end of it, ta-da, you will have beautiful, crispy, dried flax cubes to put inside your stuffing. So let's get right down to making the bread. We're starting off with the yeast. 2 teaspoons of traditional dry yeast, and we're gonna do half a cup of the warm water. This one is a half a cup. And then you have to also put in something that the yeast can feed off of, which would be a sugar. I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of honey, which is located right, I had everything perfect order. Honey or maple syrup works fine as well. So 2 teaspoons of that. For those of you who are worried about your carb count, and you're saying to me, well, why am I putting sugar into this bread? The yeast needs something to feed off of. The yeast will eat the sugar, so you're actually fine. So we're gonna mix that up, put it aside for 7 minutes till it blooms, and I'll put that over here. We'll go ahead and put together our dry ingredients. So the dry ingredients we have, what do we have here? 1 3/4 cups of the almond flour. I ground this one myself. It's cheaper that way, actually. When you buy almond flour in a bag in the store, it's actually quite expensive. We're going to use 3/4 cup of golden flaxseed meal. I'm using the Alligga Flaxseed meal. Remember, when you open it, it should then go right into your fridge or freezer, because flaxseed does oxidize quite quickly. So we're using the golden. It's just a nicer overall flavor. Some people find that the darker one is bitter, and it is actually kind of bitter. So that's the golden. Then we have 1/4 cup of whey protein isolate. So we have 1/4 cup of that. And we have 2 tablespoons of ground psyllium husk, finely ground. And then we have 2 teaspoons of xanthan gum, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. That goes in. And we whisk that all together. And then for the wet, we're gonna do 1 egg, 3 egg whites, 1/4 cup of melted butter, brought back down to room temperature. Make sure all the lumps are out of this as well. You can see over here, show it to the camera. We're making sure that it's all incorporated. And let's take a look at the yeast. The yeast is ready to go. We come back from the commercial break. We're gonna assemble it and go ahead and go right into making the stuffing. See you in a minute.